What's going on, guys? This is Fred from Spiritus Systems. I don't generally like talking about kit, not because it doesn't interest me, but just because it's so mission-based and situational based. So it's really hard to talk about it and then everyone's going to run away from this and just try to do the same thing as what I got going on, and that's just, you can't do that. It's not the case. But regardless, folks have questions, so we're going to try to answer them today. And like I stated before, when it comes to fitting your kit out, it's very, very mission specific, so what you guys are doing. But there are two general rules that I try to follow most of the time. One is I definitely follow the layering system, so your first layer, second layer, and third layer, just so that if you are on your first layer, you can still accomplish the mission, and all the other layers are just amplifying your abilities. And then the other one is, if it goes on my kit, it has to have two purposes. So if you have that specific only frag pouch thing, it really, really has to have a specific reason why we have that there, which I do have on my kit, but it's very specific. So with that, we'll go ahead and start with our first layer, which is my assaulter's belt. What I'm using right now is the Crye's assaulter's belt, and I preferred theirs at the time because it allowed me to put in a load rated belt on the inside. And that's obviously important for us because flying helicopters and such, you really don't want to fall out of those things. So that was a big deal for me. And at the time, Crye allowed you to feed whatever load rated belt you can. Now, if you aren't an individual who needs to stay in a helicopter or whatever, then that's not really a big concern to you. And there's plenty of belts out there that do both. Just understand that some of the newer belts that are coming out that are Tegris or whatever, they may not be load rated. So if you are a military guy, be aware of that. So from left to right, or from right to left from where you're viewing, tie-in for obvious reasons, whether that be a vehicle tie-in or a helicopter tie-in, just not allowing me to fall out of the helicopter. It has an active lock on it, so I have to activate here to open it. And this is meant to tie into the helicopter itself. You always want to be able to self-release on your own. You don't want to put this end on the helicopter and give that aircrew member the option of letting you go. Also, if you are in some kind of crash or rollover, you want to be able to access this end if you're hanging from the top on that. If this is switched, obviously you won't be able to reach this thing. You'll have to get out your scabbard and cut yourself away. Now, next one is just a non-locking carabiner, which is very controversial because this will catch on stuff as you're moving in and out of things. You can get wires and other lines or whatever caught in this, so it's probably not recommended. Go with locking on everything, and it's just holding my my chem lights for the time being, but I also put my fast rope gloves in here and whatnot. Here's where it comes to a very specific pouch. This is a frag pouch. And that's all that it's for, carrying frags. And then 2 is 1 when it comes to frags. I don't think I've met too many guys who tossed one and didn't wish they had another. So I just have one on here, and then I would rubber band one to my actual armor. Next we have just taco pouches to carry my happy mags for rifle pistol. And these things are awesome because they can fit whatever caliber you're looking at. So if I'm carrying a long gun, I can stick my 308 mags in here as well. And I don't necessarily have to carry a pistol mag. I can stick some kind of multi-tool in there, or even a banger if I wanted to, whatever. Just gives me a ton of options. Next is this, it's specifically a water bottle pouch, but what's also cool about it is that if we get a bump in the night, and I have to do base defense stuff, I can stick a radio in here and use that as well. But it's always good to have that extra water, and I am a firm believer of using water bottles, not bladders, just because bladders tend to leak, and I don't really want that when I need some water. And I can stick Nalgene bottles in here as well, but these are obviously pretty abundant overseas, so if we get the go-ahead, I can grab 4 of these things and just start shoving them in my pockets and start drinking water as I'm making my way to the helicopter. And then this guy would be my last resort. So I'd always have water on me. Next up, behind the medical pouch, again, a very specific thing, just a dagger from Winkler. Pretty much single use for this, although you can do some poking and prodding when it comes to IEDs or having to move stuff, but you can also perforate humans pretty well with this. Medical pouch, I believe this is London Bridge, I'm not really sure, but so I have a tourniquet, and then the pouch itself is activated by pulling this tab, and then you have your med insert. Now this is an old school Army insert, back in the ACU days. I prefer that because if you just have grandma's junk drawer going on in here and you're trying to find stuff, especially when this thing's on your back, you're never gonna find the right thing. So having it able to remove itself and then being able to access all these items individually is what I prefer, so I don't lose stuff. I'm not gonna go into specifics on the actual medical kit in here. Every unit's different on what they need to carry. I think the takeaway again is that being able to individually stow items so that you can access them depending on what your injuries are. And another one is having it tethered to you. If you go unconscious, you have individuals working on you and then you have to go mobile. They're gonna drag your ass or put you in a litter. It's good that your medical stuff goes with you. And if it becomes an issue, they can cut it away or just unhook the carabiner itself and do away with it. All right, next up we got the infamous Tomahawk, mostly because it's cool. No, but like, other than the obvious, you know, use for undisciplined humans, we were using them to create portholes in the mud buildings and concrete buildings over there for us to shoot through. So also chopping things, whatever. It has a pretty good wide use variety for breaching and creating portholes and subduing human beings. Next is a handgun. Okay, obvious reasons why we carry that. I think though our mentality with carrying pistols was not that it was a secondary weapon, it's that it's a tool. So it could be your primary weapon, especially when you're dealing with individuals in vehicles, confined spaces, climbing ladders. So we're not carrying it with the mentality that, oh shit, if my rifle goes down, I'm gonna go to my pistol. That's the secondary duty. Its primary is the fit in those specific scenarios that we talked about. Also handling human beings, you go to your handgun just to make sure they don't have access to that long gun. It's easier to retain your handgun instead. On here I have another tourniquet, so on my first line belt I have 2 tourniquets with me. And then I'll have additional ones on my armor as well. But I have 2 options. I can either rip it out or I can Velcro it off. There's a lot of other products out there that just kind of permanently put it on here. This way I have 2 options to get it out. Also I have this retention system on here for airborne operations. I've seen before handguns floating around in a helicopter just because either they didn't seat it properly before getting on or you know the retention system was defeated somehow. So it's important for, you know, doing static line or hey-ho or riding in helicopters to have some kind of secondary retention system on this thing. All right, moving on to our second line, or in this particular case is body armor. It could also be an LBE. Starting with the front, and we'll just go top to bottom. Shoulder pads, I ran no shoulder pads for a long time. And then as I started carrying shotguns and explosives and stuff, I needed something. So not only does this provide padding, but it provides some kind of structure there as well, so you don't lose the shape of the carrier. Coming down, for you folks running ATACs or phones or whatever it may be, I think this is an SS Precision. I prefer the ones that have some kind of mechanism in here that makes it tight and doesn't allow it to move. In case I have something happen, I can close it and it's not gonna just fall open. On the left side here, all this is just a lens wiping for either optics or on my sunglasses or eye pro, whatever it may be. And then on the right or the left side of the carrier itself, my comms push-to-talks. This is an Invisio V-60. I really, really like their stuff for several reasons I won't get into, but there it is, push-to-talk. On the front, I have the Spiritus Placard, so 3 mags or tourniquets or bangers, whatever it is, serves multi-purpose. Again, marker for marking foreheads or rooms, whatever it may be. And then below that, I have the lunchbox, which I don't typically use, but it's there in case something more specific, a mission comes up, like I have to carry extra charges or carry extra equipment or whatever that may be, or if we're doing some kind of site-sensitive exploitation, I can put in things that we're taking off target into there temporarily as I'm moving along. And then behind that, I just have an extension, abdominal armor, just to extend that down, give me a little bit more protection. Also, when I was a team leader, I was running a shotgun, so this would protect specific areas when running a shotgun. And I had areas to hold shotgun rounds as well. I'm a pretty big proponent of extending that protection, especially down there. On this side, I also have a pokey thing, mostly a tool to get better purchases and doors if necessary, or if I need to poke anything really. And again, you can make human beings a little bit more aerodynamic with them as well. All right, running to the back. So I'm currently running the Spiritus back panel in conjunction with the rig itself. I have a hydration pouch in here. Again, I don't believe in water bladders, but if we're doing a super extended movement, I can stick one in there. But that would be the first thing that I'm drinking off of, just so I can get it empty in case something happens and it pops on me. But also I can carry bolt cutters or any kind of tool in this thing as well. That's what I've mostly used it for. On the top here, typically I was carrying a smoke and a thermite. Smoke for obvious reasons, for distractions or cover our movement, and then thermites to destroy sensitive equipment or equipment on target. Below that, I have my MBG pouch with protective insert. So MBGs will go in there during the daytime. And then on the front of that, I have a SSE bag for whatever you need. If you have a casualty, you need to carry some of his equipment, or if you find items on target that you need to take off. On the right side of the carrier, I have my tubular nylon. So many applications for that thing, whether it's trying to hasty exfil off a roof or a multiple story building, hasty litter, drag handle if necessary. I typically run 30 feet of it. The minimum is usually 20 feet, but I add another 10 feet on there. It doesn't take up much more room and allows me to do more things with it, like set anchors or whatever it may be. Above that, I have my my lanyard for my shotgun. I believe this is the S&S one for their 40 millimeter lanyard. And then if I'm not using it, like I just had it, I can just tuck it away. Oh, I forgot to mention these retainers are for storing charges when they're on my back. And what's cool about the Spiritus back panel, I don't think a lot of folks know, is that it has these spacers in the back to stow charges in. So I can stick 2 flex linears in there, or ECTs if I wanted to. On the left side of the carrier, I have this blacked out American flag. I know you guys have seen a lot of the full color ones. Some of that was for identification. Obviously they're wearing on the back, so they're facing forward. Places like Syria were really confusing on who was actually out there. So guys started wearing these on their backs so they can easily identify them from far away. But also there was another intent, was that most of those guys were so far to the front, and the hastiness of how we conducted that operation, there weren't a lot of American flags floating around over there. So the more morbid thing that they carried before is that if and when a guy died, they had an American flag readily available for that individual to cover him when he was medevaced out of the area. So, yep, kind of weird, but I dug it. It meant something to me. And we just went with the blacked out ones just because we can easily identify black from that distance as well. And also at the time, we didn't want too many folks to know that Americans were in there doing stuff. So the left side cummerbund on here, I'm actually using a JPC one because it's just the 2. On my newer rig, I'm using the Spiritus one that has the 3 because it's more rigid. But this is what I was using when I was in. On the front side here, just a GP pouch because I can use it for bangers or initiators or popsicles or pens. Kids over there really like pens. So whatever it is the operation asks for, I can put an insert in there and carry bangers or carry 40mm or initiators and 3.8s. On the front side, I got a bunch of goodness. I have my helicopter plug-in for my comms. I have V-Light IR, so I can do buzzsaw stuff with it for signaling. Spare batteries, and then I have a face covering just because whenever we were doing daylight stuff, you know, the media somehow just shows up, and so we needed a expedient way to cover our faces up. Next, I have side plates. Always wear side plates. Always wear side. If you're gonna wear armor, there's no reason not to wear side plates. I'm sorry, that's gonna be an emotional topic, I got it, but that was super important to us. Always wear side plates if you're wearing armor. Next, I have these face coverings in case we find some folks on target and they need to go to school for a little while. We don't want them to know where that school is, so we would use these face coverings for the individual, and then it has a little pocket in the front for items that they might have had on them. All right, coming around to the right side of the plate carrier. Starting in the front again, these are actually banger pouches, but you can use them for bangers or for 3.8 initiators, whatever you desire. Chem light on the back side for marking. I'm not going to talk about what that's for. Again, side plates, use them. Magnet for my shotgun. So the magnet's super powerful. I actually have sometimes some difficulty getting it off. But regardless, if we're doing a long walk, I have another retention system for that, so that if I take a fall or if I have to go in the prone or do something dynamic, this is on there to keep it from coming off. And then once we leave LCC and we want to get prepped for whatever objective we're doing, I would take this off, and now the shotgun is ready for me to access. Then I have MPU radio pouch. MPU is running on my back. This cable actually runs through the plate carrier using its comm systems, or comm routing system, and it's going all the way to the front to my actual PTT, which is pretty awesome. All right, so again, this could be body armor or this could be LBE, whatever it is the mission dictates. Again, your first line, you should be able to accomplish the mission with. This will just enhance your capabilities. So if it's something that's super important to you, it should not be on your body armor. It should be on your first line system. All the rest of this stuff is just gonna make you a better individual, but you should thrive on your first line. And again, this could be armor or this could be LBE. All right, the last bit is that we're gonna talk about today is the helmet. Now, I have kind of a personal thing with helmets. I never would ever use like a ProTech or bump helmet type thing in anything. The only other instance is if I would use like a skull crusher type thing if we're doing a long recce, but it's very hard to convince me to not use a helmet, a ballistic one anyways, just because you know, to see targets, to see objectives or whatever it is, you got to put your nugget out there in harm's way. And I would prefer to have something that's able to stop rounds or deflect them. And don't let the internet mysticism get to you. These will stop rounds. I know there's conditions and such, but I've seen guys take direct hits on the front. I've seen guys take direct hits on the back. I've seen a guy take a direct hit on the top of his helmet and it stopped the rounds. Now the guy wasn't feeling too happy about it, but it saved his life. Now having said that, don't be running into combat, you know, with looking down and just going and thinking that it's going to save your life. Like there are specific circumstances with those, none that we can explain really because it's just combat, but don't let people tell you otherwise. It can help, or it can stop rounds. Now, anyway, so we'll just go front to back. Front is typical dovetail mount. That's what we were using. Nothing too special there. Retention systems for your NVGs. These are mostly for keeping the NVGs from flopping, because there is some give in these mounts. So as you're walking around or running, you're not going to get this movement with these retainers holding the NVGs back towards your face. I do use a battery pack, so there's that guy. Going on the left side of the helmet, I do have a light. Now I don't, for this particular one, I don't have like a surefire light on there, just because we're a recce team, we're on the roof all the time, and you don't want to be exposing your head with lights and outdoor environments. It comes out pretty bright at nighttime with a light. So I got a red/IR lens on there to help me with whatever I need to do, as a casualty or look at GRGs or whatever it is. And then obviously when you're doing SSC, you go white light and start looking for stuff. I also have on both sides these mounts for any kind of goggles if we're doing helicopter operations or mounted overland movements. Keep dust out of my face. Sunglasses won't work. You got to use goggles when it comes to dust. Same thing on the left or the right side of the helmet. Now going to the back, you have your extra battery pack. We tape up the switch because especially during airborne operations, the lines always turn these damn things on, so you have strobes just going off and you don't even realize it. On the left side here, I have a blue chem light. Not going to talk about why I have that there. On the right side, I have this passive cat eye system that Latinites makes. Latinite Creeps, I believe. So it's red, and when you highlight it, it'll glow red, but it gets so dim after a certain amount of time that you cannot see it in the naked eye, but you can see it under nods. So just identification thing for nighttime ops. That's a personal thing, you know, totally up to you and what you're doing and whether you want to use that or not. And then strobe on top, everyone knows what that's for. And then the actual mounting system here is made by Faro, I believe. It's actually a really, really good system. And it actually tethers your strobe in there, which is pretty nifty. I wish I had this when I was still in. And then, as you can see for the comm systems, I'm running actual Peltors that are designed for Invisios, but then I added the actual advanced mount to it. So it has the adapter right here that'll allow me to use the hands in the back of this thing. Nothing really weird on the inside. It just, I took out the actual retention system in this thing just because I hated it, and I replaced it with a regular Ops Corps helmet straps. On the back here, I have the extension in case we're running Helo ops or CBRN stuff. And now when you're gonna stow these things and you're running any kind of these arm systems for your comms, make sure you always stow them. Not like this, even though it looks cool, but you're putting tension on these springs in here, so if you're storing this thing, just make sure it's all wrapped up and you're not have any tension on these springs. What you don't want to happen is if you blow a charge or something on target, you don't want those things to pop out because they're getting weak. All right, again, helmets. This one's ballistic. I am kind of always in favor of wearing ballistic helmets if I'm going to wear a helmet, just because your head's going in weird places. That's it.